In our last lesson, we began talking about different points of view that stories can be told from. We discussed first person point of view, um, which is when the narrator is telling a story that's happening to them. They use pronouns such as I, me, and we in the narration, not just in the dialogue. The narrator is a character involved in the story. The narrator knows and can express their own thoughts or feelings, but they don't know the thoughts and feelings of other characters because they don't have like ESP to be able to figure that out. Um, Stories from first person point of view can sound like journal entries because it's something that actually happened to the speaker. This point of view is commonly preferred because it feels personal and it feels like you're making a connection with the speaker or with the writer. We also talked about third person point of view, which is when the narrator uses pronouns such as he, she, it, they, and them. The narrator's not a character in the story. You can see from our diagrams down below. The characters in the story are in the story, which is the yellow circle there. And the narrator is outside the story, either and as an objective narrator, completely outside the story, knows nothing personal or anything specific about any of the characters, or they're completely omniscient and they know everything that all the characters are thinking and feeling, or maybe they have a limited omniscience and they know what one character is thinking or feeling. Either way, in third person point of view, the character is outside of the story. This is the most common way to tell the story. It's kind of like watching a movie. You're watching things happen to characters on the screen, but you're not involved in what's happening. So reading a story from a third person point of view is kind of the same thing. Today, we're going to be talking about second person point of view. Second person point of view is the one you're going to find least of all in when you're reading literature, or even when you're reading, um, well, no, just when you're reading literature. Let me explain why. Second person point of view uses the pronoun you, and it puts you as the reader directly into the story, and that is tricky. Um, we used to have something when I was growing up called Choose Your Own Adventure books, and they're still around today, but they were super popular when I was in fifth grade. And so you'd read a page, and at the bottom it would say, what do you choose to do? Do you, and it gives you a couple options. And if you choose this option, you turn to page 93. But if you decide to do this, you can turn to page 47. And sometimes it would give you a third option. Those books put you in the story, but they're the only books that I can actually think of that put the reader into the story with a second person point of view narration. Um, Most of the time, if you're reading something that's written in second person point of view, it's going to be directions. Maybe it's you need to go 3 miles down the road and take a right. Then you should look for the third yellow house on the left. Those are directions for how to get somewhere. Or maybe it's you will need 3 eggs, 2 sticks of butter, 2 cups of flour, a cup and a half of sugar, a bag of chocolate chips. You need those things. They're giving you directions so that you can make them. The things you read from your teachers, when I put a screen up that says you need to plug in your computer, you need to go to the restroom and fill your water bottle, you need to do target number, you need to work on today's bell ringer. Those are instructions from me to you. I'm involving you as the reader. I'm telling you what to do. That point of view is almost never used in literature because it's hard. It's hard to include a reader in what you're writing when every reader is different. So we usually limit second person point of views to instructions, directions, self-help books. We'll talk about you, what you should be doing. Um, Remember this example that we used yesterday? My name is Percy Jackson. I'm 12 years old. Until a few months ago, I was a boarding student at Yancey Academy, a private school for troubled kids in upstate. We decided right off that that was a first person point of view. But then continue reading. It says, am I a troubled kid? Still first person. And then it says, yeah, you could say that. So in this case, Percy does talk to the reader sometimes. but it's Percy who's telling the story. It's from his point of view. So the story is about him. It's about himself. It's not about the reader. It's not about you. So even though the word you is in this, um, it is not a second person point of view. Let's look at what you're going to do today, and maybe we can see another example. Today you're going to be looking at 10 different passages, and you need to tell me if they're first person, second person, or third person point of view. Here at the top in the directions, I haven't really given you directions, I've given you reminders. So let's look. In first person narrations, the narrator is usually a main character and uses I and me. Second person point of view uses the pronoun you to address the reader. That narrative voice implies that the reader is either the protagonist or a character in the story, or the events are happening to you, like I'm telling you what to do to follow directions and have the events happen to you. In third person narrations, the narrator is not a main character and uses she, he, they, or it. The words I and me are only used in conversation, they're only used in dialogue, so in those quotation marks. I've already found a mistake. I gave you the same one twice. The birds were chirping and the sun was shining. Kevin and Juno were sitting on a park bench together, and neither of them were smiling. After a long period of silence, Kevin said, "This isn't going to work. I mean, you're a dog person and I'm a cat person." Pause. See how the word, it says, I mean, you are a dog person? Those are both in quotes. Those are not the pronouns you're looking for. You're looking for the pronouns that do not appear in the dialogue. So here we have birds. We have a character named Kevin, a character named Juno. Um, Kevin went on. It doesn't say I went on, so Kevin's not telling the story. Juno began sobbing and said, "Okay, let's end it now." Juno's not telling the story. So if Kevin's not telling the story and Juno's not telling the story, then this is a person who's outside of the story telling the story. So this would be a third person point of view. You are going to read the other passages here, and you're going to continue looking for pronouns the way we just did. I want to skip on down a little ways. Look at this one. If you are confused about something in class, don't wait. Raise your hand and ask for help immediately. Do it while your teacher is still explaining the material. Check that out, guys. If you are confused, raise your hand. Do it while your teacher. So the person who's writing this is writing to me, the reader. They're including me in the story. So what point of view is this? It's the only one that uses you as the pronoun. Second person. Okay? I think you can do this. If you have any trouble at all, email me. I will help you. Just don't submit it until you've been able to talk to me. So that way we can still fix it. Okay? All right. Go read carefully. Look for pronouns not in the dialogue. That's the important part.